I just couldn't, like, I think I tried to go live once and I burst into tears and I couldn't stream.
Yeah.
It was like horrible. And then the day when I put out the video, I was having like panic attacks like all day.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, it's understandable. It's kind of a crazy, you know, not many people in their lifetime will have to pull the trigger and do something like that. So I think it's understandable.
Well, it was one of the scariest things. One of the scariest videos I've ever made in my life.
Hey, but you did it. You got it done.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for the gifted subs. Thank you. Oh my god.
You stood on business.
I stood on business. I'm standing on business.
Stood on business. You stood on business.
You know. Oh god. I remember I didn't sleep that day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't think I could sleep either.
I think I didn't sleep for like 2 days.
Yeah, that's not good.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the gifted subs. I think it was Nolan gifted subs. I think. I'm trying to scroll. It's not working. Even my Chatterino's up.
No.
Yeah. Standing on beeswax. What the
Spam dial, thank you for 5.
Oh, you can see it for me.
Super Chicken, thank you for 20. Zone, thanks for 5, man.
Let's open it up and see what it says.
What?
Sword. Claymore. Elemental Master Claymore. Ooh. How the fuck am I supposed to get there? You know what? I know. I know.
Where do we come from? And where are we going?
physically connect to Nathan, why the fuck do I need to go to that waypoint?
Yeah, my outfits. You can't wait to see them. Yeah, my outfits. You can't wait to see them. You wish you could see them, but I can't show them to you. That I cannot leak, because that is a surprise. No. Number 100 surprise, but... Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. So I have some outfits for the concert, but I have made a decision. I have decided that now that I am independent, I will be getting a 4.0 model for all, you know, for business and promotional materials and essentially like a new main outfit. Because I want to take a step away from how I looked these past few years in that outfit. I need a fresh new look. But do not worry, it's still gonna be Rosary, so Rosary is going to be working on my new model.
Okay, give me an F.
Nice to meet you. I am Anefa, a multifunctional robot for domestic application. I am currently equipped with cleaning, cooking, and emotional communication modules. I also have a combat module, which can only be activated after reading the 11-page liability waiver. Now, how can I assist you today?
Thank you. Wow. Wow. Well, at least there is no, I don't know, a storm there. Let's have something on the background. Specifically.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero. Net zero.
Net zero.
Net.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero. Net zero.
Net zero. Net zero madness.
You are being lied to about
net zero. One of the biggest, most expensive ideas in
Come on, YouTube.
human history. You are being lied to by politicians who are misrepresenting the facts while accepting huge money from private business. You are being lied to so rich men can get even richer. Let's talk about how. Net zero refers to the idea of emitting no more carbon into the Earth's atmosphere than is removed by other processes. So it doesn't mean not emitting anything, but rather bringing carbon emissions down to as low as possible and then offsetting any remainder, either through natural processes like restoring wetlands or planting trees, or through technological fixes like carbon capture and storage.
We have to clean up the electricity system, stop burning fossil fuels to generate electricity, and replace that with clean power. We have to massively expand the electricity system, and that's because as part of getting to net zero, we're going to have to electrify a lot of energy end uses. We'll be driving electric vehicles, electric buses, even electric trucks. We have to electrify the way we heat our buildings, particularly homes, and places like Northern Europe, most homes are heated with fossil fuels, with gas boilers. That's going to have to change. We have to electrify large parts of industry, whether it's like the Port Talbot steelworks, where they're replacing a blast furnace that burned coal with an electric arc furnace. And then there's a bunch of really hard stuff that we're going to have to address, like aviation. But aviation's hard because the energy density of oil basically is really hard to beat. There's huge kind of challenges, massive investment requirements.
The total spend required to get us to net zero is so large and so widespread that it's difficult to estimate. The United Nations Environment Programme estimates that around $9.1 trillion of investment is needed per year between now and 2035. And that's not reaching net zero in 2035. It's for this reason that people around the world are questioning the cost. Here in the UK, while the Labour government is doubling down on its net zero mission, the Conservative Party is increasingly moving away from net zero commitments, while Reform UK is explicitly campaigning against net zero. With the cost of living, and in particular energy bills, at an all-time high, it is entirely reasonable to question whether the UK government should spend billions of pounds on a high-level concept, especially when the UK contributes less than 1% of all carbon emissions. And fact-driven debate should be the bedrock of how we conduct civil society, here in the UK and around the world, which is why it is so disturbing that politicians are straight up lying to you.
There is absolutely a playbook that people are using to try and put people off net zero, to try and make it seem really hard, really expensive, really difficult, or even impossible.
Let's go through the playbook in 5 steps.
The first step that often comes in this playbook is to make the cost of net zero or an individual solution, whether that's EVs or heat pumps, seem as expensive as you possibly can.
A classic technique is using out-of-date numbers. Because the cost of green solutions like EVs and solar panels and batteries have plummeted over the past couple of decades, older studies of the cost of net zero tend to be much higher than more recent numbers. Here in the UK, we are lucky to have the Independent Climate Change Committee, who have published 7 reports on the expected cost of getting the UK to net zero.
What's really interesting about the latest numbers from the Climate Change Committee is they're a lot lower than they used to be. People might remember that, and it's been thrown a lot, these sort of big, scary sounding numbers. It's going to cost like more than £1 trillion to get to net zero for the UK. That was the old number from the Climate Change Committee a few years ago. They said 1.3 trillion in investments, but that's all gone. That's out of date. The cost of clean energy technologies has fallen sufficiently that they now think that it's actually like 700 billion of investments.
The cost of net zero to the taxpayer, figures produced by the Institute of Government, are estimated between 2025 and 2030 to cost £45 billion every single year.
Here, Farage seems to be referencing this document from the Institute for Government, which is actually quoting the Climate Change Committee's previous report. And incidentally, in that report, the committee very clearly say that the majority of new investment can and should come from the private sector. So the government isn't going to be spending tens of billions of pounds extra per year on net zero. The private sector is instead. The government will be spending a few billion extra per year.
Because of the brilliant work that we, the whole industry, have already done, it's now got significantly cheaper. And here's some even better news. The public sector actually has to put in significantly less than we did in the first phase. The figures are roughly that the private sector will fund around 22 billion per year into the new energy system, and the public sector 4 billion. I mean, that seems a pretty damn good ratio to me.
Now, £4 billion a year is still a lot of money, but...
So the second step often is to pretend that we can just carry on with business as usual and it won't cost us anything. Let's say we're talking about decarbonising transport, and then people say, oh, but an EV, that's going to cost like £40,000, that's a huge investment. That's expensive, right? And you add that up over all of the cars in the country and you suddenly get a big scary number again. Let's say we just carry on with petrol cars. Petrol cars aren't free, right? Okay, maybe you own a petrol car now, so you don't have to buy a new one, but that won't last forever. So that's step two, is you basically pretend that the existing system, which we've already built and paid for, can just carry on forever and won't ever need replacing.
Another example of this is in electricity production. Here in the UK, we get about 15% of our electricity from nuclear power, but our nuclear fleet is aging. The majority of reactors are set to be decommissioned by the end of the decade. To keep the lights on, those plants have got to be replaced. So talking about how expensive new wind and solar projects are, without mentioning the alternative, which is how expensive gas-fired power plants are, is, well, disingenuous, and it makes those wind and solar projects look much more expensive. And further...
Step three is you just pretend there aren't any operational savings from investing in clean energy solutions. For a gas-fired power station, you have to buy gas every year to keep it running, right? And that's the major cost of doing so. For a wind and solar plant, you have this upfront investment cost. Once you built it, there's no fuel costs. So if you just pretend that saving of not having fuel costs doesn't exist, then obviously it makes it seem more expensive to get to net zero.
To return to the numbers from the Climate Change Committee's most recent report, they estimate that over 25 years the UK needs to invest £700 billion into net zero. And over those 25 years, the UK will experience £600 billion of operational savings, meaning that the net cost of net zero is actually £100 billion spread over 25 years, so £4 billion per year. For reference, that's 0.1% of the UK's GDP. This is also actually mentioned in the previous report that Farage was citing. They quite clearly say that net zero might actually pay for itself by the early 2040s. Strange that he omitted that.
Classic number 4 in this playbook is just to ignore the co-benefits. What I mean by that is, say we replace all our petrol cars, which obviously have exhaust emissions. You walk down the street and it's stinky, right? That's air pollution. If you replace all of your cars with electric cars, you get rid of that. That brings enormous health benefits, just in terms of quality of life, but also in terms of less people suffering from asthma and so on.
Perhaps the most reputable numbers on this come from The Lancet, who publish an annual report on the impact of climate change on human health. They estimate that 2 million...
fully covered during the trial period. Does that mean we get to go back to full-on vacation mode again? What are we waiting for? Next stop, Tenochtitlan. Hold up! Doesn't that person over there look kind of familiar?
Oh, nice bandana. Wait, you mean you like my bandana too? Thanks a bunch.
Bennett! And, a Monotoo that looks kinda different.
Whoa, Traveler! Paimon! I'm not dreaming, am I? It's really you? I feel like I got enough sleep last night, and yep, didn't forget to pack my bandages either. And I can remember things, like the Traveler becoming a hero and saving all of Natlan. So, nope, definitely not dreaming.
Yeah, that real life.
Oh, and this little guy's a new friend I just made. He came running up to say hi the moment I got here. He's super friendly. And my luck's been so unreal lately. Look, I'm so unused to it that my fingers are shaking.
Finally turning around.
Yeah, so many good things have happened to me recently. I can't even fit them all into my travel journal.
Oh? What kind of stuff? Did you win some kind of lottery or something?
Nah, nothing like that. With my luck, you really think I'd bother signing myself up for a lottery? Here, I'll read you some of my recent entries. Day 1. Didn't fall into a puddle. Didn't miss the ferry. Day 5. At lunch, the violet gold angler gulls didn't swoop in and steal my food. I even fed them some bread, and they were really friendly. Oh, and here's a good one. Day 11. Got my hands on a sweet outfit from the shop in Natland. Snagged a killer discount, and it's great quality too. Day 12. Finally caught myself a real live fish from a pond. And for once, not a boot or some other pile of junk.
Wow! For Bennett, that actually does sound way luckier than usual.
It does, right? Once this trip's over, I better go thank that shopkeeper. The lucky color she picked for me actually worked.
Lucky color? So, like, yellowy orange?
Nope, lake blue. I passed by a water sports shop that day. Had a look around, but I didn't actually end up buying anything. The shopkeeper was super friendly, though. She said she thought lake blue would suit me and suggested I give it a try. Anyway, while my luck's holding out, is there anything I can help you guys with? Any treasure maps you can't make out? Clients you can't get in touch with? Stuff like that? The way my luck's looking right now, I'm sure I'll be able to sort it out.
No work talk. We're meant to be on vacation. Our top 3 priorities right now are fun, fun, and fun.
Sure, whatever you want. Seriously though, if you need anything, just let me know. Stuff like this never happens to me, so I'd love to make the most of this lucky streak by helping out my friends. Of course you can come. We're friends now too, after all. Let's go on an adventure.
Look, there they are! Hey there, friends! Watch out! The ferry's coming in hot!
What's that noise? Is it coming from the ocean?
With the deep blue sea beneath you and my lucky Sharky surfboard leading the way, are you ready to crank up the speed? Take a deep breath. And go! Come on, faster! Faster! Let's share the fun and excitement with our friends on shore by giving them a nice big wave! Yoo-hoo!
It's Mualani!
It's the shopkeeper!
If there's one thing that girl can do, it's making a splash wherever she goes.
Nothing like the feeling of the sea breeze in your face. Woohoo! Did you see that, everyone? A perfect landing, if I do say so myself.
Good thing the Traveler managed to pull those two back in time. Otherwise, they would have gotten soaked.
And it's so sunny here, they'd dry off in no time.
And who might this be?
Hello, my name's Bennett. I'm an adventurer from Mondstadt. Yeah, but as adventurer teams go, we're not exactly the stuff of legends. I really admire you guys in Natland. There are stories of legendary adventurers wherever you look. The people here are so skilled, and you work in perfect sync with your Saurian companions, helping solve problems wherever you go. It's inspiring. As for me, Well, I might officially be the leader, but in reality, it's a team of one. Yeah, right. Don't listen to her, guys. She's just joking. If anything, it was the other way around. And even then, I was probably more of a hindrance than a help.
Nice outfit, by the way. I knew you'd look good in lake blue. I wish I'd known you were a friend of the Traveler. I'd have given you a little souvenir from the shop.
Picking out a lucky color for me was the best gift I could have asked for. Oh, sorry. I still don't know your names.
I'm Mualani. When I'm not around running my shop, I'm out and about being a tour guide. And this here is Chaska, peacemaker of the Flower Feather Clan. Trust me, you do not want to get on her bad side.
Sorry, but what would that look like? Getting on her bad side.
You strike me as a pure-hearted adventurer. The humble, genuine type. You don't have to worry about that.
Wow, high praise right off the bat. Chaska's good at reading people. Do me next. Look me in the eyes and tell me what I'm thinking.
I've already told you. Mind reading isn't a required skill for a peacemaker. Stop acting like I'm some kind of soul-seeing obsidian mirror.
Come on, just do it, pretty please. You got it right the last 2 times.
Stop fantasizing about turning Soul Sniper into a giant water gun. There's no way Shilonin will agree to that.
Right on the Mora!
Whoa! How did you know that, Chaska?
'Cause on the surf over, she wouldn't stop shouting, "I really, really want a water gun." I've never wanted Kukasaur wings more than that moment. Anything to block out the noise, honestly.
Come on, water guns are so much fun! Besides, summer's not summer without a good water fight. Or 10!
I know exactly what you mean. I have this one friend. Well, long story short, every time she heads down to the lake to go fish blasting, I get soaked from head to toe. It's so much fun.
Exactly. Playing with water's all about letting go of your worries and just having a blast.
You two sure speak the same language, all right.
But this time, having fun in the water is not the only reason I'm here. Yup. As a guide, if you want to create the best possible travel plan, you have to go out and experience everything for yourself. It's like being a guinea pig for your future clients. Chaska's here to scope out the resort for her Kukasaur family, too. After all, human or saurian, who doesn't love a good vacation? Obviously, the resort is still in the trial phase, so there's bound to be some bumps in the road. But we have tons of time on our hands, so we decided to officially sign ourselves up as testers.
Oh, Aoife and Auroran signed up too. They got here earlier than us, though. Said they were gonna go check up on the health of the saurian staff and aphids here at the resort.
They should be just about wrapping things up by now, right? Maybe we'll run into them somewhere.
Well, seeing as we're all here for the same reason, why don't we stick together? After all, when it comes down to it, adventure's all about teamwork.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm down. The more the merrier. I heard there's this incredible can't-miss experience called Dreamboat Drift just over there in that canyon. Let's go check it out!
Wow, your friends are here to welcome us too.
any mana to?
These special ones are called Asha. They roam freely around these parts, which is why they were chosen as mascots for the Easy Breeze Holiday Resort. They're supposed to be super clever, just like Saurian companions.
That's good to know. But yeah, nice. And I guess Pearl Abyss stars now roll over.
Deaths a year are influenced by burning fossil fuels through air pollution. Though, because rich countries have started moving away from burning fossil fuels, and especially coal, that number has actually already come down by maybe 250,000 deaths per year. But aside from the health impacts, electrifying systems makes them much more energy efficient. I've made a whole video about that. And once you have built out a grid based on renewables, you are not dependent on other countries for fuel, as we currently are. See excellent reporting by Simon on this. Energy security and health are massive reasons to invest in renewables, but they're not the big one.
All things come to an end.
Basically pretending that there is no cost to not zero. Just say, oh, come on guys, let's just pretend this isn't a problem. Even though we know we're seeing already now escalating costs of extreme weather events, whether it's heat. Waves, floods. Specifically, you know, like the Office for Budget Responsibility in the UK recently said unchecked global warming would basically shave 8% off UK GDP by the sort of second half of the century. The costs of inaction are much, much bigger than the costs of getting to net zero. And actually that might even be an underestimate. Some sort of Institute of Actuaries that recently put out a report saying actually global GDP could halve, like 50% off, not in a good way, if we don't do anything about climate change. So yeah, sure, you can pretend that's not going to happen, but then you're basically just you're lining up much bigger costs, and that, you know, that's particularly true for, you know, countries in the global south, you know, vulnerable populations around the world, but it's also true for places like the UK. Again, the OBR looked at this and they said it would add huge amounts to government debt. Basically, you would have less productive workers, less tax revenue, you know, less GDP growth.
We can't afford net zero. It's destroying the country.
So these are the 5 steps of the anti-net zero playbook. Inflate the costs, ignore the cost of business as usual, ignore the operational savings, ignore the co-benefits, and most egregiously, ignore the costs of inaction. Not getting to net zero is going to cost the world much more in the long run. Now this has been spelled out, it becomes so obvious to spot. These politicians are lying to you. But why? Before I answer that, I just want to quickly mention that if you are watching this video in the first couple of weeks after upload, I am currently training to swim a half marathon to raise money for my local cancer hospice. This is going to hurt a lot. I made a whole video about why I'm doing this, which is linked below, along with my fundraiser page. Please do give that a watch, and if you can, please do donate. Okay, let's get to the why. Generally speaking, it's not because these people deny the existence of climate change. The overwhelming majority of people around the world and here in the UK accept the overwhelming evidence that climate change is happening and a serious problem. Instead, what we're increasingly hearing, including from Kemi Badenoch, the current head of the Conservatives, is that they are not climate skeptics, but they are net zero skeptics, which has some inconsistency.
This just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Literally the only way to stop climate change, whether you want to limit warming to 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees or 3 degrees, the only way to stop it getting hotter is to get to net zero emissions. That's it. That's just a fact of life. It's physics. You can't kind of argue with that. So if you're a net zero skeptic, you're basically saying, I don't want to stop it getting hotter.
I think there are 2 basic reasons for this disconnect. Firstly, as I've already mentioned, the UK represents less than 1% 1% of all carbon emissions. China, the USA, and India all emit far more. And so British politicians will ask, why should we cut our emissions when China isn't doing anything? Ignoring the fact that China's emissions have likely peaked and they're building twice as many renewables as the rest of the world combined. This is a global problem. Everyone's emissions harm everyone else. But just because you're a small part of the problem doesn't mean you have no responsibility to be part of the solution. A global problem requires a global solution.
If every country that was like 1 or 2% of emissions said, well, we're only 1 or 2% emissions, so why bother? Then we obviously won't ever solve it. You know, there's like a handful of massive emitters. You know, China by far and away in terms of current emissions, the biggest. But then there's like, you know, a lot of countries that are literally only like 0.5%, 1%. We can't solve it unless everyone does their bit.
And the UK has a special responsibility, being the country that started the coal-fired industrial revolution and set the world down a path ending in the climate crisis. This is a good book on the historical context. But the second, much bigger reason is the link between politicians and the fossil fuel industry. There exists a three-way relationship between the media, politicians, and the public. The media, such as newspapers, will report on topics that they see as being in the national interest, which is partly determined by who owns those papers, but also by the politicians of the day and what the public is talking about. Politicians will then read those papers and offer to the public policies that they think, based on what they have read, will get them votes. There's this complicated relationship that then emerges between all three parties. But two sides of this triangle are influenced by industry. And in this case, I mean the energy industry dominated by fossil fuel companies, who see net zero as an existential threat to their business model. And so, through financial incentives, will alter what politicians are offering to the public and what the media is talking about and how. This can rapidly become a self-sustaining feedback as a nudge from industry changes what the media focus on, which changes what politicians talk about to the public, which changes what becomes the national conversation, which feeds back to what the media report on, and so on. And in some countries, this influence is extremely clear and well documented.
The US, where there's huge amounts of corporate money going to political lobbying and, you know, funding campaigns, it's clear there's, you know, tens of millions of dollars went into the, you know, the Trump campaign ahead of the election last year, and tens of millions of dollars went into his kind of post-inauguration fundraising. There is like a, you know, a much clearer line that you can draw between some of that funding and some of that lobbying and actual things that they've implemented through that, you know, the kind of one big beautiful bill, so-called. There's some of that stuff which is very clearly like fossil fuel industry asked for it, fossil fuel gave them money, and then the bill had those things, you know, literally drafted by fossil fuel funded, you know, think tanks and so on.
And this kind of influence isn't new. See our previous video on how the US government deliberately sabotaged climate talks in the 1980s. While here in the UK, there is a definite link between right-wing politicians like Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, and Kemi Badenoch and the fossil fuel industry. Reporting from DSMOG found that by mid-2024, the Reform Party had accepted £2.3 million in donations from the fossil fuel industry and climate skeptics, representing 92% of all donations to the party. And in entirely unrelated news, just this month, Reform published a bizarre letter online that seemingly threatened renewable energy companies with cancelled contracts should Reform win the next election. And presumably also unrelated, last year Nigel Farage was present at the launch of the UK branch of the Heartland Institute, a right-wing think tank bankrolled by fossil fuel companies. Also in attendance were prominent members of the Conservative Party. In the same reporting, which is linked down below, it's worth reading in full, since 2019 the Conservative Party was found to have accepted £8.4 million of donations from similar sources.
People like Neil Record, who's the chair of the sort of UK's biggest climate skeptic lobby group, Net Zero Watch, he basically donated his house to run Kemi Badenoch's leadership campaign for the Conservative Party. She ran her campaign out of his house. I don't know, I can't speculate as to whether her kind of anti-net zero stance came because of that relationship with Neil Record, or whether because of her net zero stance he was like, okay, that's my kind of politician, I'm going to support her. I don't know which way around that is, but there's obviously some links there.
We cannot definitively say that the recent rise in anti-net zero rhetoric in the UK is explicitly because of the fossil fuel industry. But millions of pounds have flowed from that industry to right-wing politicians and political parties, and those parties have have certainly ramped up their anti-net zero rhetoric. And it's not hard to see the link between a political party getting 92% of its donations from individuals and companies that would benefit from net zero being scrapped, and that party's economic policy being scrapping net zero. A policy, by the way, that has been widely, repeatedly described as complete fantasy. These techniques are used over and over and over again to convince you of a lie, that net zero is ruinously expensive or even impossible. And that's not only incorrect, but it is dangerous to say that, because we know what the alternative to net zero is. It is climate breakdown. And we know why these lies are being spread. It's because of the people responsible for that climate breakdown. It's because of fossil fuel millionaires and billionaires seeking to become even richer by artificially extending the lifespan of their industry that we know is burning our future and already killing millions of people every year. The next time you hear these lies, know who is really talking. It's big business. And they do not care about you. They care about their profits.
One thing that drives me absolutely potty is when I hear that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. That's what they tell us. That clearly is absolutely nuts.
A few weeks ago, I was asked a question by a patron, and I think it's worth giving my answer here as well. When I make a YouTube video, obviously I want people to watch it. And that's partly because when people watch it, Google puts adverts next to the video, and I get half of the ad revenue. Google keeps the other half. I financially benefit from views, as does Google, but not just from the ad money, because as more people watch YouTube videos, the value of YouTube as a company increases. And so if YouTube were to sell in the future, it will go for more money, partly because of the work that people like me put in. Yet despite being partially the reason for the company's value increasing, I won't see any benefit from that future hypothetical sale. A fairer model would be creators getting some share of the revenue of the website that they upload their content to, as they currently do, but also getting some level of equity in that website, proportional to the amount that their work has increased the value of the website. And, to answer my patron's question, that is exactly how Nebula works. Nebula is a streaming service owned and operated by over 100 creators across basically every genre. We upload our videos to Nebula before anywhere else, and there is a huge library of exclusive content that you can't watch anywhere else. I have many exclusive videos on Nebula. This is one recent example about how the UK bans disposable vapes, but I'm just the tip of the iceberg. Frankly, I think it's worth getting a Nebula subscription just to watch Bobby Broccoli's 17 pages, or just watch Lindsay Ellis's amazing exclusive content. And these are just two of over 100 creators on the platform. And crucially, when I say that Nebula is owned by the creators, I mean that 50% of the equity of the company is split between all the creators that upload videos to the platform, proportional to the total watch time their videos have generated. Such that if Nebula were to be sold, and to be clear, that isn't under discussion right now, the creators, like me, would get a share of that sale price, because the work that we did increased the value of the company. And to me, that just seems like a fair way of doing things. If it seems fair to you too, and you would like to watch exclusive content from some of your favorite or soon-to-be favorite creators, as well as transforming the creator economy, then you can get a Nebula subscription at go.nebula.tv/Simon Clark. And in fact, if you go there and get an annual plan, you'll also get a 40% discount. So that works out to $3 a month. That's go.nebula.tv/Simon Clark. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to Dr. Simon Evans from Carbon Brief for chatting to me. If you're not aware, Carbon Brief is the #1 place on the internet to get your news about climate change. They do incredible work. Sign up to their newsletters to stay on top of the biggest news story in the world. And of course, a very special thank you to my patrons, without whom I simply could not make these videos. Patrons get early access to videos, exclusive content every month, and at higher tiers can vote on topics for me to make videos about. Please consider signing up at the link in the description. And an extra special thank you to Alexandra Provost, Charlie Bruce, and Daniel Rafferty. If you'd like to watch something else from me, then here's 2 videos I prepared earlier that I mentioned previously. And that just leaves me to say thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm surprised how often I'm saying this these days, but I have big news on the law introduced to start protecting games you've already paid for. Though it's only for Europeans. Again. Sorry, what can I say? Europeans seem to have all the options on consumer rights. I'll cut to the chase. The Digital Fairness Act in the EU has opened up for public commentary. Now, the Digital Fairness Act currently does not cover the problem of games being destroyed, but it covers a few issues adjacent to it. I'll get to them in a minute. So the strategy here, which has been suggested by the BEUC and some political insiders I've talked to, is to politely suggest, hey, maybe the Digital Fairness Act could swing a little to the left and protect video games while it's at it. As of the time of me recording this, there are 17 comments on its page. So if we had, say, a few thousand polite suggestions to include protecting video games from being destroyed, that might get the EU's attention. From everything I've heard, this strategy has a real chance of working. I would not call this a long shot. I would say it's another one with maybe coin toss odds of being successful. And best of all, this is an additional option on top of everything else we've been doing. So the Consumer Protection Agency investigations in multiple countries? Still happening. The European Citizens Initiative? Still happening. Though seriously, hurry up if you haven't signed it and you're eligible. It ends in just a couple days. So let's go overkill and open up this new option. Though again, it's only for Europeans, sorry. But more people can participate in this than the Citizens Initiative. For example, some European countries aren't part of the EU, but they're EU adjacent. Like they'll share some policies with the EU or are actively trying to join it. So this is for all EU citizens, but if you're a citizen of Norway, Iceland, Turkey, or countries that are EU-ish, I've been told it's okay if you want to go and leave a comment on this also. Unfortunately, due to Brexit, that does not mean the UK. So UK commentary isn't going to help here. Sorry. So, what should you say? Well, that's up to you. This isn't meant to be a template letter. In fact, if everybody writes the same thing, that could get flagged as spam, so you really do have to put this in your own words. However, I've been given some guidelines. First, be polite. The EU is under no obligation to add our issue to the Digital Fairness Act. This is us making a request, so if you grouch at them, they'll probably ignore you. Second, ask if they can add protections against video games being destroyed that have already been sold to customers. If you have a personal experience with this, that's even better. If there was a game you liked that was destroyed, or if you're worried about a current game being destroyed due to it being online only with no end-of-life plan, you can tell them. Or you could bring up how hundreds of games have been destroyed already, and hundreds more are at risk of being destroyed. There's been a community-made index of them here if you want to take a look. And of course, feel free to mention that the Citizens Initiative already has over 1 million EU citizens expressing support for protecting video games from being destroyed. That might give this a little more weight. Maybe avoid URLs though, since that might trigger spam filtering. You can just leave a sentence or two, or you can write a short essay. You have up to 4,000 characters to work with. Now, you do have to register in order to give a comment, but they give a few options here. Electronic ID, even Facebook and Google. Also, select EU citizen or non-EU citizen if you're Norwegian or something. Do not select consumer organization. Stop Killing Games is not an official organization. It's just a grassroots movement. Anyway, if you leave a comment on this, you could be opening up a whole new avenue to protect games. Let's make the topic of game destruction impossible for the EU to ignore. The whole world has been ignoring this problem for 15 or so years, so we're making up for lost time here. Speaking of time, some good news. Unlike the European Citizens Initiative, which ends in a couple days, this is open until October 9th. So if you're watching this late, you can still leave a comment and help protect games. In fact, I have no idea if the EU's website can handle a flood of people or not. So on the off chance it goes down, just come back later. So that's the main news. You can stop watching here if you want. But some of you may be wondering, what is the Digital Fairness Act? And why is this a good option for protecting games? A very relevant question. Well, the Digital Fairness Act is a kind of hodgepodge of protections the EU is trying to push to rein in some bad practices occurring in the digital space. The big ones they mention are dark patterns in online interfaces, which is kind of weaponizing the GUI to do things customers don't want, addictive design of digital services that pushes users to spend more money, or hey, look at that, gambling-like features in video games. See, this is what I mean. That's not the issue of stop killing games, but it's totally in the same neighborhood. Personalized targeting, like if they were to push gambling ads on someone who's a gambling addict. I imagine something like that. Making it hard to unsubscribe from digital subscriptions, and problematic commercial practices of social media influencers. So what we're trying to do is add a number 6 here. Publishers permanently disabling video games they have already sold. I'm sure they'll word it differently, but you get the idea. We're trying to invite ourselves to the party here. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, and that's, whoa, 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 Ross. I'm someone who thinks we shouldn't have a lot of government interference. And this looks like a lot of government interference. I don't want games being destroyed, but I don't trust the EU not to go too far on this other stuff. They could screw it all up. Well, guess what? You could be completely right, and I'm not trying to tell you otherwise. Stop Killing Games is single issue. We are only trying to stop publishers from destroying video games you paid for. That's it. If we get that, then it's mission accomplished. All of this other stuff here is outside of our scope. So if you have strong opinions and all this other stuff, feel free to tell that to the EU also. See, the thing to realize is this stuff here is already set to happen. We had nothing to do with any of these proposals. But if there's a chance we can piggyback our issue onto legislation that's already happening with or without us, oh, yeah, we'll take it. I mean, we're trying to keep Stop Killing Games contained to just the core issue. But with the industry lobbying against us and taking a pot shot at us behind the scenes, we'll take almost any help we can get. Anyway, I want to end this saying concern for government overreach is a valid concern, but only up to a point. For example, the issues in the Digital Fairness Act sound like good practices to rein in, but I could also imagine scenarios where that backfires. But saying that about Stop Killing Games has always rung hollow to me. Because I think the worst possible thing that can happen to gaming is games you like or want to play being destroyed forever. Well, that's already happened to the tune of hundreds of titles, and the industry is promising to put resources into killing many, many more. I mean, live service games don't have to be synonymous with titles that are destroyed forever, but that's what the industry does the vast majority of the time. Now, of course, gaming could get worse than it is now, but I don't think it could be on a worse trajectory. I brought this up before, but I'll never let my audience forget it. If you want to know what the video game industry as a whole wants for us in the future, look no further than the original Xbox One reveal. Some highlights of that were no game sharing, needing to connect to the publisher every 24 hours or all your games would stop working, having every game you own on the platform be at risk of being completely destroyed when support ends, even if you have physical copies, and having a mandatory surveillance camera that could detect biometric data like your facial expressions or heart rate, and would upload that data to the publisher. Now, they ended up backing off of some of that due to competition, but the industry tipped its hand there. This is the trajectory we're currently on. It's just slower now. It's the whole boiling frog metaphor. Microsoft's mistake was they turned the heat up too fast. And it's not just them. Stadia had streaming-only exclusives. How do you get less ownership than that? Ubisoft has its infamous quote about players needing to get used to not owning their games. And Blizzard killed a game they sold over 50 million copies of, which made them billions of dollars, and they kept everyone's money. So they were rewarded for that. And that's the path we're on right now without regulation on this issue. So if we don't get regulation, the industry is promising to kill more of our games. But if the regulation backfires, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? The industry will still kill our games? So yeah, I'm not scared of the government making gaming worse than this. What the industry wants here already scares me more. All right, that's it. Last call to go sign the EU initiative and first call to go comment on the Digital Fairness Act. Let's get it done.
Viewbotting on Twitch has been a big problem for many years now, and nothing has been done about it despite countless conversations from users about it. And this isn't some like wackadoo conspiracy that you can just write off as just like fake paranoia over nothing. This isn't like 5G and airport body scanners blasting you with gay beams that turn you into a mutant that craves penis or something. This is a very real thing. And it's not even like it's hidden or anything. It's not exactly a secret. It's about as much of a secret as ketchup's main ingredient being tomatoes and sugar. It is blatant. And for the longest time, it felt like they did nothing to stop it. So tons of streamers over the years have just shamelessly used viewbots to inflate their numbers to float to the top of the categories and grow, which is of course very unfair to the people that don't do that, but there's never been any like real punishment that I can see for it, even in the most extreme and obvious cases where someone bots up to like 10k viewers on Mr. Hoggleberry's, farmyard barnyard adventure or something, and it's like a streamer with 400 followers. Even in cases like that, I've seen they get maybe like a temporary suspension, then they're back like the next day and still do it again, but make it like, instead of 10k viewers, it's like 400 viewers just to stay at the top. And of course, it's a tool not just utilized by streamers trying to get noticed in a very saturated market, it's also been a tool used by some of the biggest streamers on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he's on Twitch. It's real. There's no viewbots or fake bots on Twitch, dude.
You should start viewbotting, Matt.
Dude, actually, I've been thinking about suggesting viewbotting to a lot of people because they don't do anything about it. There's countless streamers on this platform. Some of the top 10 streamers on this platform just viewbot. Just do it. Fuck it.
Now, of course, Shroud's just taking the piss here, but he's expressing frustration at how common it is and how there is seemingly no consequences for it, so why wouldn't everyone just viewbot? Even though a lot of them are. Ask any, big streamer, except for the ones blatantly viewbotting, I suppose, about how rampant this issue is, and all of them will tell you the same thing. That a ton of people at, the upper echelon of Twitch viewership are viewbotting as well. It again is not just reserved for smaller streamers trying to break out by artificially inflating their numbers. It is just super common and everybody knows it. But everyone also knows that there hasn't really been any effort from Twitch to stop it. It really feels like there is nobody at Twitch headquarters that gives a fuck about this subject at all. It seems like at best Twitch has one dude, the intern Eric, who goes through manually and sometimes bans a handful of bots for maybe an hour and then calls it a day for the bot detection and stoppage program. It's just been out of control. But in an unpredictable surprise, yesterday Twitch actually made an announcement that they're going to be doing more to crack down on viewbots and combat it. I'm a little doubtful on that, to be honest with you, but I guess we'll see. We're going to go over the statement here in a moment. They've had a huge problem wrestling with viewbots forever, but you know who hasn't had a problem wrestling? Me. With bad hygiene. I went in there and gave that shit a knuckle sandwich with our soap, Cheeky. Cheeky's the best soap in the universe, and I just wanted to put something on your radar. Right now we're doing a special promotional with one of our partners, Giga. She just debuted her new 3.0, and we wanted to celebrate by giving 20% off to anyone that uses her code at usecheeky.com, and we're also donating $1 for every bar of soap sold using her code to the Immune Deficiency Foundation. Just a little something we wanted to do after everything that happened with Fee Shoujo and Iron Mouse, so I just wanted to put that on your radar real quick. Anyway, this is Twitch's statement. They said, a quick update on view counts. We have teams and tech dedicated to ensuring that the views that show up on channels reflect actual viewership and aren't artificially inflated in any way. Ultimately, metrics on Twitch should represent the real and growing communities that show up and participate on channels, so we regularly update detection tools and methods. So I'm a little doubtful on how regularly they update those detection tools and methods because they are not efficient at all. They are terrible at doing the job that they are designed to to do with stopping view bots. I would have actually preferred if they just came out and said, hey, we haven't taken viewbotting seriously on this platform until now. Now we're going to get serious about it. Because right now this just reads as, we try, but we're just bad at it. Like, we have teams and tech dedicated to it, they just can't do it very well. So it doesn't inspire a ton of confidence with how little effect they've had on viewbots, despite apparently regularly updating their tools for it. Recently, we made changes that meaningfully improve our ability to identify viewbots, inauthentic viewership, and other potentially fake engagement. These changes will roll out over the next few weeks. So, if your channel was viewbotted, or if some of your viewers are artificial or inflated, you'll see an impact on your channel's view count. This also means that third-party sites that publish unverified Twitch view counts are going to see changes to that data over time. We recognize that viewbotting can be out of the streamer's control, and making these changes, our goal is to improve the experience for both streamers and viewers. Now, there is something I'd like to mention with this approach to announcing this. I am a little curious why they would announce this before actually doing something. Why not take action first and then explain later? Because right now you're giving viewbotters and the third parties that make the viewbots ample time to try and find ways around potential detection tools, or the streamers coming up with like excuses like, no, it must be someone else viewbotting me. Like, it's just giving people a lot of time to try and skirt this. I don't know why they wouldn't just implement these tools first, let them take action, and if they work really well and people do see drastic changes to their viewer numbers because of eliminating so much of the artificial bloat on it, then you could come forward and explain why. I feel like that would have been far more effective. Like, I don't really love the approach to like making this announcement like, here we come, we're taking down the viewbots, before actually having done that. Now, admittedly, this is still like the most we've got from Twitch in what feels like forever about viewbots and how they're going to do something about it. So it all sounds well and good that they're finally making what seems to be more of a priority out of this issue and trying to stop it. Like, they also recognize that sometimes it's not always the streamers that viewbot themselves. It could be a viewer doing it to try and get the streamer in trouble. But that never really works because Twitch doesn't give a fuck about viewbots, or at least historically it hasn't, so that never really amounts to anything other than just, once again, the stream being inflated with artificial numbers. But, like, at least the statement is them addressing the issue and saying that they are working and cooking up new ways of trying to stop it. And I hope that they're very effective. I just have my doubts about it, is all. Because as they mentioned, apparently they've already had all these tools and stuff, but they don't work super well. Unless they've had like a drastic overhaul and have really prioritized stopping this, I'm very curious to see the impact it has on viewbots. And I'm not saying it's like an easy problem to solve or anything. Obviously, it hasn't been mastered and perfected by any other platform either. There are viewbots out the wazoo across the internet in general. So, like, I understand that it's not just Twitch, but I think Twitch has kind of ignored it for a long time without taking it super seriously, despite it being a pretty big issue. I would love if they were correct here that there is going to be like some sweeping changes to view counts where now it's no longer inflated and it's harder for creators or viewers to try and artificially boost a stream with bots. I hope they do actually have some good like tech in place to stop that. I don't put a whole lot of faith in it. Twitch has become notorious for putting out statements like this with like these big changes that are coming that don't really amount to anything. Like, they don't actually really do much to change things that they talk about, at least historically. Now, that's not speaking in an absolute there. There have been times where they put out a statement like this and there has been big changes, obviously. But for this one in particular, I really get the feeling this will be another one of those things where they make a hoopla about like what's coming and what they're about to do to improve something. And then, you know, a few weeks down the line, it doesn't really change much. I hope I'm wrong. I hope when this fully rolls out over the next few weeks, we do notice a huge hit to viewbots on the platform. That would be great. I'm just a bit doubtful of it. And I think a lot of streamers that do viewbot are probably going to take this as like a warning to stop making it so obvious, because even their most brainwashed of followers will see like, oh, this streamer was once at like 2,000 average viewers, now they're down to 200. That's weird. What happened here? And then they'll hopefully connect the dots in their head like, oh, they must have been viewbotting this whole time, which of course is a really bad look from the streamer. So I'm assuming even just putting out this notice here is maybe going to help with some of those streamers that do actively viewbot. They might kind of put the brake.
Looks like I did everything. Everything I wanted to do, everything I could do. What's up here? Lots of time to do everything. It is here. Monday. Yep. Alright, that's going to be it for this stream. Good luck, have fun, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. Probably in a couple of days.